65 yards. It's time he fumbles the ball.
You must be out of your goddamn mind. What the hell is wrong with you people?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Christmas Eve, and welcome to another Victory Monday as your Minnesota Vikings went to Seattle yesterday, a place they had not won at since 2006, and didn't make it easy, but walked out of Seattle with a 27-24 victory. Moving on to 13-2 on the season. It sits a two-horse race for the number one seed in the NFC as the Philadelphia Eagles lost to the Washington Commanders, and bringing it down to these last 2 weeks, meaning quite a bit for a lot of teams. So good evening, Robert. Stone Cold Sam Darnold. Yeah, that's true. I mean, Sam had a decent game, for the most part as it gone through. But when it came down to it in the fourth quarter there, after Seattle went ahead with that questionable go-ahead touchdown, Darnold just said, "Fuck it, we're going down there. We're going to get a touchdown." And honestly, when they got the ball back, I know Brunswick and I had been talking back and forth during the game, and I started to waver a little bit later on in the mid third quarter-ish. Basically, we kept dinking around. We were going to lose that game, but we got the ball back, and it's weird because, we all know as Vikings fans in years past that, we would have fallen apart there and it just went, well, this isn't our day, and away it goes. But, we got that ball back. I had every confidence in the world that the Vikings were going to go down and get the touchdown. And Darnold steps up in the pressure there and finds Jefferson in the corner, and that's what she wrote. Won a game that Kirk never would have done. Yeah, there were some definite throws in there that Kirk would not have made. I don't think he makes that throw to Jefferson at the end that we got the touchdown on. Now, that being said, in all fairness to Kirk, we have won games in the past where he did take us down, and, we had 8 game-winning drives or whatever it was in that 2022 season. So, hey, Andy, good evening. I had to get a little festive, celebrate a little bit and this, that, and everything else. Doc, good evening. No turnovers. Yeah, that was key. We didn't turn the ball over yesterday. Disgusting act. Good evening. That crowd, they know how to cheer their team on. Yeah, they do. And, they're after what, the Green Bay fans went in and kind of took over the stadium last week. Seattle fans showed up yesterday and made it harder. There was a good amount of Vikings fans there, but it wasn't near the amount of visiting fans that they had last week against Green Bay. So, way to overcome the elements in hostile environment. Yeah, we've been talking about that all year. Disgusting act. This team, it just, something is different about this team than Vikings teams in years past. It feels like it now. That being said, the shoe. Yeah, we're all sitting there still waiting for the shoe to drop and everything else. How far will this team go? I don't know. We have as good a chance as anybody, I fully believe it, to go all the way. Will we get there? I don't. Again, time will tell. But, winning a game like we did yesterday and that kind of environment, rain, shitty day all the way around, if we don't end up with the number one seed and we have to go out on the road in the playoffs, I have full confidence. This team can can play anybody anywhere. And, you know, the Roberts, we get the 1 seed. I would love to have the 1 seed, and that's what I'm pushing for. And of course, we all are. But we've got the toughest schedule the next 2 weeks. The two teams we're playing are playoff teams. The Seattle is potentially a playoff team. So I mean, we've been playing some. We've got the hardest schedule left between ourselves and Detroit, but did you? Yeah, I don't know what that one was about. That was actually my first talking point I wanted to hit. How many times over the last 5 years has Justin Jefferson hit the gritty after scoring a touchdown? And yesterday was the first time that he got a unsportsmanlike conduct penalty for doing the gritty after a touchdown. And Kevin O'Connell, in his post-game press conference too, you could tell he was kind of flabbergasted about why the hell it was too. And his comment was, I will just take it as that they saw something, but we just need to be conscious of which direction we gritty from now on, or something to that effect. So I don't know if it was because Jefferson looked at Witherspoon when he hit it coming across there. I don't know what it was, but those refs yesterday, I think they actually called an unsportsmanlike penalty on the celebration at the end there as well, after Theo Jackson sealed the game with that interception. There was a flag that come up, and they never did explain what that flag was. So I don't know, if they're, again, these refs were just being Grinches the whole freaking game and didn't like to have fun. But Josh, absolutely. This is my thing. If you don't, and it doesn't matter if it's a Vikings game or not, it's the same thing. We'll use our buddy Ted Glover's Ohio State Buckeyes as an example. Everybody was all butthurt about the fact that Michigan went to go plant the flag at the 50-yard line, even to the point where the Ohio State legislature introduced a bill to make it a felony to plant the flag at, an opposing team to plant the flag at the Ohio State Stadium. I mean, to Josh's point, if you don't like it when somebody does that to you, then don't let them do it to you. That's all you have to freaking do. Jefferson was yapping at him all day. Yeah, Witherspoon, he is a notorious shit talker too. He was that way in college, and he was talking shit right back and forth. So just let the guys play. I mean, not like he got, stood on top of the guy when he was down on the ground and doing something in his face. I mean, he was doing something that he's done dozens of times in the last 5 years. Put up or shut up. Yeah, Jair Alexander's done it to him before, and nothing gets called there. But yeah, I'm not. It didn't end up costing us. I mean, Will Reichert had to kick probably the longest extra point in history, but still made it good and did not affect us at all. So, but yeah, looking in at some of the stuff, Jair Alexander again. Yeah, we'll talk about him in a couple minutes here. But I just wanted to kind of hit the Sam Darnold thing a little bit here again. I mean, when it counted yesterday, that guy was a stone cold killer. 22 out of 35, 246 yards with 3 touchdowns. Again, no turnovers. 112.3 quarterback rating. That is his 12th game this season with a QBR over 100. And that's the 3rd best in any one season in NFL history right now. I forget who the other 2 were that were above that, but I mean, he's got a potential that he could reach that in the last 2 games, depending upon how things go. Robert thinks they need to tag Sam. I'm not going to get into the Sam Darnold discussion on what we should and shouldn't do until after the season's over, because we have more important things to worry about right now than what Sam Darnold is going to be doing or what the Vikings are going to be doing at quarterback next year. I mean, we look at the same thing. Kevin O'Connell's currently not under contract next year, too. That's something that needs to be done. A lot of things need to be done, but I don't want to look ahead. And I know we're trained as Vikings fans to do this, to start looking ahead at this point in time, because we're all sitting there waiting for the inevitable first round of the playoffs, after looking like gangbusters the entire time to go out and shit the bed kind of thing. But I don't want to have that mindset of we need to worry about next year yet. If we go out and Sam Darnold wins us a Super Bowl this year, I don't care who plays quarterback. I don't care if Kevin O'Connell comes out and plays quarterback next year. If we get that Super Bowl ring, next year will take care of itself. So we will, we'll try to hold that conversation for a later date. I guess we'll put it that way. Aaron Jones yesterday, not a spectacular day, but solid enough. And the runs that he did have he had some key runs at different areas there. He only had 67 yards in the ground, but Steven, good evening. But Justin Jefferson finally had that explosion game that we've been waiting for several weeks here. 10 catches, 144 yards, which is a season high for him, and 2 touchdowns. The longest one was 39 yards, that one at the end of the game that ended up being the winning score. And Seattle's back end, they're good, and yet Jefferson had their way with them. But the one thing Seattle was doing that I didn't understand, a lot of times they had like their third or fourth cornerback covering Jefferson, and they were rolling like Witherspoon and I forget what their other cornerback's name is, but a lot of times they were over covering Addison and Naylor coming out of the background. They weren't putting their best guy on Jefferson every time. They're playing maybe a little bit more zone and stuff, I guess, but yeah, Tariq Woolen, yeah, and Woolen's had struggles this year. They benched him at the opening series. I don't know what that was about. I never did hear, but wasn't injury related. He came in and played after that. So they said something on, Mark Sanchez on the broadcast said something about it potentially being a disciplinary or trying to get his head right or something. So I'm not sure what's going on there, but Hawkinson being back's open up. It absolutely has, Robert. And they're working in tandem with each other. Hawkinson is opening up some of that deeper stuff for Addison and Jefferson. And in turn, Addison and Jefferson are also opening up that short to intermediate stuff for Hawkinson. It's nice having that kind of stuff out there to to complement each other, and so you have multiple weapons. Norcius, good evening. Gritty was hilarious. Jay, I've seen him do that before, though. I know you mentioned it on in the chat when we were on Vikings Report Rewind yesterday. I went back and watched it today, and I've seen him do that before. Maybe not as pronounced as he was doing it, but still, it was a weak ass fucking unsportsmanlike conduct penalty. Like Josh said earlier, if you don't like it, then don't let him score. Steven with a good question here. The Lions lose against the 49ers and we beat the Packers, then we lose to the Lions. We end up tied. Who wins the tiebreaker? The Lions win the tiebreaker because the number one tiebreaker, is head to head, and they would have beaten us twice. So that would be what sets it apart. In order for the Vikings, I mean, if the Vikings win out right now, they get the 1 seed. With Philly losing, if they just win the next 2 games, they are the 1 seed. There's no question about that. They fully control their own destiny. So realistically, it really doesn't matter what the Lions do next week, even if they lose. If they lose against San Francisco on Sunday, they could still win the North and get the 1 seed, I believe, if they beat us in 2 weeks. Now that if everybody finishes with 3 losses, that does bring Philly back into it again, and I'm not sure where the tiebreakers fall with that, but yeah, lose the seed. That would make the season finale a meaningless game for us. No, the only way the game against the Lions is meaningless for us is, is if we. I think if it's going to have meaning either way, I think, and somebody can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but if we lose to Green Bay and beat Detroit, then we could still win the North, I think. I'd have to go play with the ESPN simulator thing and stuff to see what would happen there, but I'm not sure. So, I mean, I think we could still lose to Green Bay, beat Detroit, and get the 1, and at least win the North. I don't know if we would get the 1 seed or not, but let's just go out, beat Green Bay, and beat Detroit, and we won't have to worry about it. Better division, yeah. 5 more games. That's all I add. Yep, that's exactly right, Doc. We need to win 5 games between now and the middle of February. Because if we win 2 games now, we'll only have to play 3 games in the playoffs, counting the Super Bowl. If we lose one of the next 2 and end up as a wild card, then we have 4 games we have to win in the playoffs. So 5 wins gets us a Lombardi trophy. That's all we got to worry about. We would stay ahead of the Packers. Yeah. If we lose out, I'm not sure how the seeding goes between us and Green Bay. Minnesota's in the playoffs regardless. But I think right as it sits right now, we could still be anywhere between the 1 seed and the 7 seed. Could be the 1 seed, could be the 2 seed. Can't be the 3 seed. Can't be the 4 seed, but we could be 5, 6, or 7 in the wild card. So, Gary, good evening. If the Packers win tonight, does Minnesota really mean anything to them? A win tonight by Green Bay locks them into the playoffs. I think that there would still be, I believe, some, the seeding as far as wild card against Minnesota. So Packers will have something to play for next week. Now, if we beat them next on Sunday, then I don't know that how they fit in there. The Commanders sitting there at I think with 5 losses, what do the Commanders have for losses? Is it 5 or is it 6? Either way, I don't know if the Commanders can catch Green Bay. So thinking about that, yeah, the Vikings can't be any worth. Can't lose down to the 7 seeds, so they have 5 losses. Yeah, so the Vikings' worst case scenario would have 4 losses. So the worst the Vikings can be right now is the 6 seed. We would have to lose out and then win out for them to get the 5. Yeah, that's what I thought. everybody been saying the season feels special. How does it feel to? I mean, we talked about that before, Doc, and I think you might not have been on yet when we mentioned it earlier tonight, but yeah, it feels different. It just something feels different about this team, and could it all come crashing down hard? In the wild card or division round or wherever we end up playing, yeah, it absolutely could. But just like yesterday, we weren't out of that game. Years past when the Seattle went up, got that last touchdown and went ahead. I figured sure as hell, it was 24-20. We were down by 4 points. A lot of times in the past, this team would have just quit. It didn't quit yesterday. Sam Darnold said, come on, boys, hop on and let's go. We went down there and got it. And then the defense, end of the game when they needed to step up. I mean, they got gashed pretty good in the passing game yesterday. I think not having Harrison Smith hurt quite a bit. But, when it came down to it, Andrew Van Ginkel, 2 sacks late in the game. Dallas Turner with his first career interception yesterday. And then, of course, that one that Theo Jackson got that sealed the game at the end there. They stepped up when they needed to. It's that whole mantra about, that Kevin O'Connell's been pushing for 3 years. Be at your best when your best is required. And, to this team's credit, more often than not, they're able to reach down deep and find a way to pull a win out. If we beat the Packers, I can't remember a bigger season finale than this. Yeah, the only other one I can maybe think of, I mean, you could argue the one in 2012 where the Vikings had to beat Green Bay to get in the playoffs, and that was that game where Adrian Peterson came up 7 yards short. Dan, good evening. But I mean, the stakes are higher in this one because it's the 1 seed and it's being at home at US Bank Stadium for potentially, if we get the 1 seed, you have 2 home games as long as you take care of business in the divisional round. And that, like I said earlier, I don't fear going on the road because this team has played very well on the road this year for the most part. But, it's always better to play at home, obviously. And I would just as soon be at US Bank for the entirety. But if for some reason we don't make it, then, we can go on the road, and I have every confidence this team would be able to pull off a win too. I mean, if they're the 5 seed, you're going to probably Tampa Bay or Atlanta. Now the Tampa Bay lost last night. That brings Atlanta right back in the mix. So you've got, you'd be playing Atlanta, with Michael Penix Jr. Does that scare anybody? I mean, we stomped a mud hole in Atlanta 2 weeks ago. Or you could, the team that would concern me a little bit is if we would have to go on the road to face the Rams. I think we'd be better prepared against the Rams this time because I still maintain coming out. I mean, the reason why we lost to the Rams is coming off that short week. We just played a 12-round bout with Detroit, having to go play on Thursday night in Los Angeles. And then I still believe that they didn't expect to see both Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua in that game. Touchdown Green Bay. Yeah, Ponders one good game. Yeah, exactly. As much as I hate to say it, Green Bay is going to win this game tonight because New Orleans is just playing out the schedule. They don't have anything really at the quarterback position. Their best player is, the running back is hurt, Kamara. And their wide receiver core it's okay, but it's nothing special. And it's just, they're playing with an interim coach and they're just playing out the year. So I would love to see them make a game out of this and beat them tonight, but I don't hold on a lot of hope for it. So, what else we got here? Kicking game yesterday. I want to give a shout out to those guys. Ryan Wright had 6 punts for 300 yards, 50-yard average, and that longest is 63. I mean, Wright has gotten some heat a few times, this past year and last year. After his first year, which was great, he struggled at times. But yesterday, in the rain, he was booming punts. He knocked them down, kept them in the negative territory, and as far as field position, went all game long. And then Will Reichert, hit a 53-yarder, hit a what was the other one? 47, 48, something like that in the rain. Hit that 45-yard extra point. I mean, those guys did their job yesterday. The coverage teams did a pretty good job. Sherfield has been great as a gunner on special teams. So, I mean, he did well. So, got to give a shout out to those guys because they don't get a lot of credit, but quick passing game was hard to defend with Cashman out. I think Cashman was in. Cashman played yesterday. Ivan Pace didn't play, but Cashman did. Cashman dropped that one sure interception that hit him in the chest. That old, to quote Vikings radio network, if it was a spear, it would have killed him because it hit him right in the chest. But Ivan Pace sounds like he could be back for Green Bay this week. Hopefully he is. That would be a good, nice little addition to have back, and hopefully Harrison Smith be back as well. Theo Jackson and Bobby McCain did all right in the grand scheme of things yesterday. Bynum and Metellus picked up the slack as always. But having Harrison Smith back for the stretch run, getting Ivan Pace Jr. back for the stretch run, I mean, then the defense is going to be pretty well healthy, and we need them all for these last few games. Green Bay is going to be tough this weekend. They're playing pretty well right now. They're a different team than when we played them back earlier in the season. We're a different team from when we played them back in the season. So, it's going to be a good game. It's going to be a tight game, I think. And, hopefully that we can figure it out to come out and get out of there with a win on Sunday. For those of you who had not heard, earlier today, the NFL and Fox flexed the Vikings-Packers game to the game of the week, 3:25 p.m. Central, from the noon slot, meaning they will get the number one Fox broadcast crew, including one Tom Brady. So, other than the time change, it really doesn't make any difference, I guess, to me. But I prefer to have the 12 o'clock games myself, but I know it's more TV exposure and stuff like that to have the game of the week. So I understand it. But if it was me, I would just as soon have had it at noon and been done with it. But it is what it is. Let's talk about Dallas Turner a little bit. Now, there's a lot of people on Vikings social media, or about midway through the season, is like calling him a bust. And where's Dallas Turner? Where's Dallas Turner? Dallas Turner for the last 3 weeks has been making impact plays. This past week he had that. Yesterday had the interception against the Bears. He had that incredible sack off of his knees. Week before I forget exactly what about. No, he would made a couple of tackles for loss and was getting in there. And so, yeah, I mean, I understand that, Dave. I mean, me being in the local market doesn't really matter a whole lot to me one way or the other. except for my 87 different streaming services I have to do to try to watch games here. But yeah, for those of you guys that aren't in the the local media market, yeah, it does make it easier for you guys. Play them in the afternoon a lot in the last few years, just because it's typically a higher profile game, and that with stuff on the line. So it's right. The game of the week before was going to be I think Philly and Dallas. Now Dallas, of course, got eliminated yesterday from the playoffs, so they don't have anything to play for other than to ruin Philadelphia's playoff playoff seeding, which for a rival should be enough motivation to go out and play. It wasn't for Chicago yesterday. Chicago could have done us a solid and took out Detroit, but they pretty much like it was with us and against San Francisco. Half the team didn't show up. The Bears are done. They're a mess. They're just counting down the days to, and of course, Green Bay gets Chicago next week. So, they finish off the season on an easy note, but you got to play the games when they schedule them. So, unfortunately, we got the Bears after they're done, so I guess it's fine too. But, yeah, other than that, the Seattle thing, great coming out of there with a win. Had not won there since 2006. Brad Johnson was the quarterback the last time we won in Seattle, coincidentally also wearing number 14. And, we went in there and we shook the Seattle curse, came out with a win, setting up for a very important last 2 weeks of the season. I was surprised how poorly Tampa played. I don't know if it was Tampa played that poorly or Dallas just played that well. As it sits, Dallas is going to be playing themselves well enough to probably save or get Mike McCarthy a contract extension, which go right ahead, I guess. But, the last 3-4 weeks, they've been playing really good football down there with Cooper Rush as their quarterback. And he's done this in the past before. Had a couple of games or streaks where Dak has gone out, because that happens with Dak, more often than not. And Cooper Rush has come in and played well. Tampa blew it yesterday and basically out of the playoffs. They aren't yet. They could still run the table and get in. They have to finish ahead of Atlanta because Atlanta beat them twice, so they have the tiebreaker over them. I think in the playoffs, Tampa is a little more dangerous than Atlanta is, but the NFC South in general is a horrible division, and the team that comes out of there is going to be barely above 500. So I'm not concerned about whoever comes out of that conference or that division. Sorry. Dallas played that well. They're going to keep. Yeah, I think that very well might happen. I actually heard Jerry Jones had made some comment to that effect earlier. So if he wants to bring McCarthy back for another go round, go ahead. They're not going to go anywhere with it. But Tampa's O-line played like ours. Yeah, from what I was watching, there are times I was kind of in and out last night, and I caught bits and pieces of it. But Tampa just didn't look good last night. Cooper Rush smoked Mini a few years ago. Yeah, he did. That was against wasn't that against Mike Zimmer's last year? I don't remember exactly when it was, but yeah, it was a bad game. Atlanta has that tiebreaker, but they also have the head-to-head tiebreaker, which is the first one. First is head-to-head, so being they beat Tampa Bay twice earlier in the season, if they finish with the same record, then that one gets them in. But out in the NFC West, I believe the way it sits now, the Rams. I mean, the Rams are the division leaders right now. Seattle's not out of it yet. Arizona is out now, I believe, after losing to Carolina yesterday. San Francisco has been eliminated. So Seattle would have to win out in order to win the division. I believe it's the last game of the season. The Rams and Seattle play one more time. So you're going to have one coming out of the West. You're going to have one coming out of the South. You're going to have two coming out of the NFC East, and then you're going to have three coming out of the North. So no matter which way it sits, the road to the Super Bowl probably goes through the NFC North, whether it be Minnesota or whether it be Detroit. Philly's not completely out of the 1 seed yet, but that loss yesterday made it a whole lot harder for them. Yeah, disgusting act. The Rams are probably the team that I really don't want to face the most in the first round. I'd rather they go, have to face somebody else. So, if they end up the 3 seed, which I think they probably would, then they would play the 6, which right now would be Green Bay. Commanders being the 7 seed, we'd be the 5. So that would put us against either Atlanta or Tampa Bay, whichever one comes out there. But lots going to happen in these last 2 weeks. There's a lot of positioning that's still, still up for grabs. So Cardinals blew it against Carolina. I got to give Carolina some credit on that one. I mean, yeah, Carolina was up pretty good there for a while, and then they let the Cardinals come back into it. But Bryce Young has been playing some decent ball lately. That stint he had where they benched him for a couple of weeks there, I think did him a world of good. And, the cupboard is pretty barren as far as talent goes on that team, but they're playing people tough right now. I mean, they almost beat the Eagles 2 weeks ago. So Carolina is a much better team at this point in time in the season than they were earlier on. So, they're definitely on an upswing, and I think Bryce Young is starting to figure things out. So, it's too late for this year, but, there's some positives going forward for next year for them. Did they score again? Discussing it. I don't have the game on down here in my studio. I got to order myself another Fire Stick so I can get the TV hooked up down here. But hopefully we get to sit back and watch the first round. That's what I'm hoping, because especially after having to play Detroit next weekend, it's going to be hard if we lose to Detroit and have to turn right around and play the following weekend again. I would like to have that week off just to sit and heal up a little bit. Now, I guess on the flip side, we have struggled a little bit coming out of the bye the last couple of years. So is that a bad thing? I don't know if it is or not. Hey, I'll take it. I don't get paid what Troy Aikman does to sit here and talk about football for a time, but hey, I'll take any kind of praise and credit I can get. So appreciate that, Narcissus. Still 7-0. Yeah, those guys always do Monday night ants, so is what it is. Unless you watch the Manning cast, all red-eye during Vikings games. Yeah. Yesterday in the second half, I probably had one or two more than I needed to, but helped get me through the game and helped get us to a win. So it was well worth it. So, but anyway, big week this week, guys. Green Bay Packers, 3:25 p.m. at the U.S. Bank Stadium. A lot of marbles on the line for this one here. We beat Green Bay, and we face off against Detroit for the NFC North and for the number 1 seed next week. So I think Kevin O'Connell's going to have these guys ready to play. The stakes are getting higher. And if they can't handle the pressure of this game, I guess, then I don't have faith that they're going to handle the pressure getting into the playoffs. So I look for them to come out. It would be very nice to see them play a full 4 quarters. That's something that this team doesn't do a whole lot of. It seems like, we'll start out good, and then we kind of go to sleep for part of the second and part of the third, and then wake up and come back. And, I'm not saying that we're playing with teams like what Kansas City tends to do, but, it would be nice. I would love nothing more than to go out and hang 40 points on Green Bay and beat them by 2-3 touchdowns. But again, I'll take a 1-point win. I'll take a 10-point win. I'll take a 30-point win. I don't care what the margin of victory is, as long as we beat Green Bay this weekend. That's all that matters. And hopefully we get that done. So Manning cast is awesome. Buck is terrible. Yeah, I like the Manning cast. So sometimes they get off in the weeds too much when they have their guests and whatnot. But there's a lot of good information that comes out of those guys too, because Peyton and Eli both know football. Dave can't say it any better than that. I'll let everybody use their imagination, but I'm pretty sure you all know what Dave is alluding to there. But yeah, it's Packers week. It's hate week again, border battle, whatever you want to call it. Somebody, I forget where it was, I saw today. It's like, I think it was on Twitter X that, they said, honestly, if you're a true Vikings fan, every week should be hate week with Green Bay, but which I can't argue with that. But no, let's just go out there. Let's beat Green Bay, and then we'll put all the cards to the table against Detroit next week. So, but with that, that's about all I've got. Go ahead over and watch the Monday Night Football game for a little while anyway, till it gets too annoying. Big thank you to everybody again for joining. We're 13-2, guys. 13-2. Give me a hell yeah, hell yeah. FTP, FTP, FTP. But thank you again, everybody. Shout out to the Filipino fan club, as always. Shout out to my lovely wife, who is, I think, watching upstairs. I'll be up in a second, hon. And let's go out. Let's beat the frickin' brakes off Green Bay this weekend and shut their fans up for a while and send them limping back home. But with that, you guys all have a very Merry Christmas. And we will see you Friday night for the preview show for the Packers, 7:00, I believe we're going on. So make sure you tune in for there. But other than that, you guys have a great night, and we'll see you on Friday. Skol Vikes, and Merry Christmas.